Hi, my name is Rose Farias, and I'm a Senior Management Assistant for the Law Department for the City of Newark. The field that I work in is public service. Public service for me has been a life calling, and I think it probably started with my mother. My mother was very active growing up, whether it was church or different civic organizations. So I was really raised with knowing that I must be part of my community and be active within my community. So all through high school, whether it was senior, editor-in-chief of the newspaper or student council, I was very active. And I remember a good friend of mine asked me right around the time when you're kind of figuring out what you want to do in life, what was your first memory that you remember that you had total bliss or total happiness? And I remember for me specifically, it was Halloween, and I was dressing up as a nurse. And so I was so happy because my mom had made me this outfit, and I had a little, bag, the medical bag and the stethoscope. And I remember that one of my friends, I could see them outside, they were playing, and I was going to ask my mom, can I go out and play? And I wanted to show my Halloween costume, and she had happened to fall right in front of the window, and it was a really nasty fall. And I remember running out there like, oh my goodness, are you okay? And she was bleeding. And I remember I pulled out my little medical kit, I put a Band-Aid on her, and I was like, wow, like that feeling of being able to help somebody in their time of need really stuck with me. And so for me, it was always that calling. Like I always wanted to be in public service as a public servant. And so government was that natural fit for me. So I studied in that area in public administration, and all of my work has been really geared towards that. Well, there are several, and I think as with anyone in life, I was raised in a single parent household. My mother was an immigrant to this country from Colombia, so there was always the challenge of language, and also being a first generation Latina here in the United States. So that issue of identification was always present growing up, in that you were different in one way or another. So for me, those were kind of the initial obstacles growing up and trying to find my way. Clearly, not having a father figure in my life also played a significant role in how I viewed the world and in my placement in the world. But more specifically, I guess, with my career, especially government, is very male dominated, and so the obstacles come with the gender dynamic that comes with whether it's in management or decision making. That issue is always present. So those are obstacles definitely that I still to this day deal with, and how I overcame them was one. I mean, I think I've been blessed enough to have really good people in my life that when you do stumble and fall, they're there to kind of pick you up and dust you off and move you along. And so I've been blessed to have a lot of mentors in my life that have really played that role. Although I didn't have a father in my life, I've had a lot of father figures in my life. So for me, those have been critical. Absolutely. Especially in government, when you have a state legislature where 30% are women, that the differences are palpable. So when you walk into a business room meeting and you're the only female in the room, things like attire, comportment, how you speak professionally, and trying to be someone that kind of blends in the room as opposed to being yourself. You're always cognizant. That's always in your front mind. Also, the dynamics that come with the gender, and and communication issues as well. So I don't think that men really have that challenge in that instance, where they're cognizant of those differences. So yes, as a woman, especially in the field of public service and more specifically elected office, oh yeah, they're very much present. I have several, but I guess there's a couple levels to that because I have those friends in my head, perhaps those that I don't know but I admire, such as Supreme Justice Sonia Sotomayor, for the obvious reasons. Well, obviously being justice, but also being the first Latina to be in office. I actually admire. I read a lot of her writing, and I've read her books, but also or her decisions with the Supreme Court, and especially specifically with affirmative action. She wrote the dissent. I just admire how she really kind of conceptualizes the issue of race in a context of present day. So she's somebody that I look up to. Another person that I love is Senator Warren out of Massachusetts. I love that, one, she's incredibly smart, and then two, that she can really break down really hard concepts in a way that you understand them in the context of what are the issues going on in our country today. So, and she's a huge advocate for the middle class and just kind of your general, Joe the plumber kind of persona. She's an amazing advocate. So if I ever had the opportunity, I've never met them in my life, those would be two individuals that I would just love to have a cup of coffee with and talk to. But on the personal level, people that I admire are those women who have played mentorship roles with me. I call them Yodas. I'm a Star Wars junkie. So it's, my Yodas, and I call them Yodas, and at first they didn't get what I was saying. But I was like, no, it's not. It's not an insult. It's actually the highest compliment I could give you. So I have plenty of Yodas in different positioning throughout the state in government. And I found that it was very critical not only to find women in those positions because they're few and far between, but also Latinas who could really talk to me about maintaining who you are in the context of all of it, the gender dynamic, the race dynamic, and the generational dynamic. There's several different layers to that. But more importantly, obviously everyone says their parents, their mother, my mother in particular, because she raised us. So she's always been a role model as far as work ethic is concerned. So she's always been someone to teach that no matter what job it is, there's honor in every job. So those are just a few. If I were to give advice to other women in the field of public service, the first thing I guess I would say is know your craft. It's one thing to want to do good, and that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, I think is absolutely true. I think that when you really want to get into the field of helping the masses, the public, you really need to, one, have a background, understand how communities work, understand how government works, and understand the limitations to government on both sides of the public sector. And that would be the first thing, is to really know your craft. Two, actually that should be two. Number one should be let it be your passion. I think we all kind of can agree that if it's not something that you don't passionately feel like you can do, then you do a disservice by going into the field just because you think it's the right thing to do. It's something that you have to, that's with anything in life. You really have to have a passion to work with people because it requires a certain level of connection that you have to have. And if you're not comfortable in that setting, it could actually go awry pretty quickly. And also for the professional career for women, there's always, it's always a constant in the present conversation about women in the place of either authority or in the context of business. And there is this kind of notion, and I talk about this a lot because I'm in several women civic groups, and we talk about the Hillary Clintons of the world, and how sometimes we get vilified as women in those positions of power, and somehow you almost have to be emasculated to be in those roles, and not having that kind of feminine quality that is inherently in all of us, all women. And so my advice is to genuinely stay who you are and not try to be anything that you are not, or a persona that you think should fit into the field. I think if you arrive to a career and you honor what passion it is that you have, then you'll do fine no matter what it is, whether it's working with animals, whether it's working with people, or both. I think that that's probably the best advice I could give.